56 Days by Catherine Ryan Howard, published by Corvus Books, and this is a mystery that is set in Dublin, in fact in Dublin 6, in a fictional complex of flats called The Crossings. This is a novel with COVID at its heart, and I was a bit in two minds about picking it up because it's all still too fresh and it's still, rampaging around the world, but I really enjoyed it, so, I ignored the idea of COVID. What I think is interesting, we call it in the UK or in England lockdown, and in Ireland they seem to call it cocooning, which seems a much more positive outlook on it. I think lockdown's just such a negative word. But anyway, going back to March 2020, Ciara and Oliver serendipitously bump into each other in a supermarket queue, and they start the first tentative steps towards a relationship, and then a couple of weeks later, lockdown or cocooning has to happen, and they are thrown almost together. They have to decide, do they spend the time together or do they spend it apart? Now, Ciara has a very, very small flat and it's fairly dingy. He has a much bigger flat that is provided by his work, his office. So it makes sense for them to move in together at his. But of course, they know little about each other. Ciara knows little about Oliver, and Oliver knows little about Ciara. Forward to summer 2020, and we know that a body, a rather ripe body, has been discovered. It was the smell that drew people to investigate, and a couple of police officers turn up and they have to sort of trawl through all the evidence of what has happened. Now, this is at the Crossings, and we know that Ciara and Oliver have lived there. And because they're in the same book, we know there must be a connection. But it's the mystery behind what went on between the two and how a body has turned up at this block of flats. There is quite a lot of flipping between, 56 days, and then have 23 days and so forth to bring it to present day or summer 2020. It also goes back and sets the history of what's gone on for these two individuals. So you have to be a bit on the ball, but if you miss a little bit, then it's actually not an issue, but you just need to be on your mettle a bit to pay attention to where you are in the narrative. I listened to this as an audiobook, and Alana Kerr Collins does a really good job. She has a wonderfully lilting, dulcet tones with an Irish accent, and it really drew me in, and I always wanted to pick up to the next episode or the next chapter, so it kept me enthralled while I was doing my COVID walks. We're out of it pretty much now, but I still take those walks that I got used to in the last 18 months, and audiobooks have been a great companion. So I think if you're looking for an interesting mystery that's set in Dublin, then I think 56 Days by Catherine Ryan Howard will be a good choice to pick up.